Impact of Influence.
Covering true crime throughout the Southeast.
My lead investigator, Alex Tyndall, was going through the video, and we're about maybe 2 weeks out from going to trial, and we've been working the case for close to 4 years at this point. And he catches something on the video that he's watching. Somebody's body cam was picking up. She leans over the body and bends over, and you can kind of see maybe she gets something out of his pocket, and she looks back and says, "Do you all need this cell phone?" And they say, yes. So she gives them the cell phone. Then you see her bend over on the other side, and she says, "What about this knife?" At that point, that's when the body cam cuts off.
This is the voice of a private investigator hired by Evan Hawthorne's family. Evan Hawthorne was recently convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Obviously, more on that in a moment. Hello, friend. I'm Matt Harris. Seton Tucker will join us for the interview portion of this episode. We are so grateful you're spending time with us. Join the conversation by going to the Impact of Influence Facebook page or the YouTube channel. When you get to the YouTube channel, hit subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. Those numbers are going up, and it's thanks to you. So, again, we're grateful. So let me get to the case that we're going to talk more about with the PI in a moment. It's out of York County, South Carolina. It's been building for years, delayed because of COVID, so it's been a while. But a jury did find Evan Hawthorne guilty of murdering retired Rock Hill Police Lieutenant Larry Vaughn. The jury came back pretty quickly, just a couple of hours after closing arguments. And the moment the verdict was read, according to the Charlotte Observer, the courtroom reacted immediately. One of Vaughn's family members gasped, and then emotion just spilled over. People were crying and hugging, and the courtroom itself reflected how much the case meant to the community. It was packed all day. Vaughn's family showed up wearing red, it's his favorite color, along with buttons featuring his photo and the phrase "Justice for LV." Outside, uniformed Rock Hill officers waited for updates. The judge was Keith Kelly, and he gave Hawthorne life in prison. Prosecutors and defense did not disagree on everything. They both said Vaughn and Hawthorne met July 23rd, 2021, at a bar called Tattooed Brews in Rock Hill near Vaughn's apartment. And they bonded over their backgrounds in law enforcement. And Hawthorne was a former Chester County deputy, and Vaughn a retired lieutenant. And at some point, there was somewhat of a conflict over PTSD. We'll get into that in a little bit. It seemed like they made up, had some more drinks together, and then went outside on the bar's patio, and then eventually out of the bar's camera's view. And this is where the defense and prosecution painted different pictures. The assistant solicitor, Spencer Smith, painted a picture of escalating aggression, saying that Hawthorne followed Vaughn back to his apartment and attacked him there. The injuries were brutal. A pathologist testified Vaughn died from blunt force trauma to the head and neck, along with strangulation. And Smith said during the attack that Vaughn tried to defend himself, and Hawthorne bit off the tip of his thumb and spit it out. After that, prosecutors say Hawthorne left him there to die, and then went home back to his apartment, cleaned himself up, went about his business, and those actions, prosecutions say, showed intent and a lack of remorse. Now, the defense took a different approach, obviously. At one point, defense attorney Todd Rutherford argued that Hawthorne was acting in self-defense, and he focused on the physical setting. According to the defense, the confrontation happened in this small bathroom. Rutherford even laid down in the courtroom to demonstrate how confined that space would have been. And he asked jurors to imagine being trapped in that tight area with Vaughn, who he described as nearly 6 foot tall and over 200 pounds, allegedly coming at Hawthorne aggressively, possibly with a knife in his pocket. More on that in a moment. And Rutherford also raised concerns about the investigation itself, how things were handled, evidence, the fact that Vaughn was a former law enforcement police officer. So he was saying that there might have been some bias in the investigation. And it all was for naught, as Hawthorne was found guilty by the jury. After the verdict, the courtroom shifted into the sentencing phase, and that's when Vaughn's family spoke. Their statements were emotional, deeply personal. His sister talked about feeling lost without him. His mother said losing a child is something she wouldn't wish on anyone. And his daughter shared memories that really humanized him. At one point, one of the family members said that the verdict brought some closure, but the loss is permanent. Evan Hawthorne's family obviously sees things differently. In a statement released after the trial, they questioned the fairness of the investigation and the trial itself. They claimed evidence was mishandled, key information was withheld, and investigators had personal ties to Vaughn that could have influenced the case, and that they planned to go ahead with appeals. So let's find out from the private investigator some of the problems that he had with the case. Pete Skidmore joins us. Pete, give me a little background on you and how long you've been doing what you're doing.
I've been a private investigator licensed in North and South Carolina for 32 years. I do a lot of criminal work on murder investigations as well as death penalty cases. We also have a large domestic practice as well.
Okay, so we'll start where I think we can agree on things.
Wait, I want to clarify this first. You've been hired on behalf of Evan Hawthorne's family, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
So Evan and Larry are in a fight at the bar, but then they kind of make up, it appears. Everybody agrees that it was over who had worse PTSD or something like that. So that's all good there, right? That part?
That's right. Well,
okay.
It really wasn't a fight. Larry tilted Hawthorne's chair back. He fell out of the chair. Then Larry stumbled around. Hawthorne got up and went to see like what was happening, and then a couple people got in between them, and that was the end of it, pretty much.
And this was inside the Tattoo Brews bar in Rock Hill, South Carolina,
That
right?
is correct. Yes.
Okay.
Eventually they go outside.
They do.
And you can see, we saw the video. They are both obviously very inebriated.
And there's other people sitting around, drinking or beers or whatever, what have you. It's not just the two of them.
Right.
In the video.
There's an outdoor area for the bar. At one point, Larry Vaughn falls pretty hard. Not pushed or anything, he just falls. Then
you can see, well, they really appear to be on this video very intoxicated. Both are kind of struggling to stay upright. They kind of, at one point, I think Vaughn kind of puts his arm around Hawthorne. Is that? Yeah.
Hawthorne comes out first, and then Adam Michaels comes out second, who is the bar owner. And then you see Mr. Vaughn come out, and the three of them kind of, what I would say, hug it out for a long period of time for me. I mean, it wasn't just like an embrace and then it was done. It was on and on and on. And then so eventually Adam breaks away from the two of them and kind of heads back into the bar. And then Hawthorne backs up, and that's when Larry is kind of going to sit in a chair, and he stumbles and falls and hits his head on the table and then the concrete. And then two people have to help get him up.
And it looks like he hit pretty hard from the video.
He did. I mean, if you listen to the sound, it sounded pretty violent as well.
So eventually the people at the bar, one of the owners, whatever, they take Vaughn away. He lives within walking distance of the bar.
That's correct.
And he leaves first, and then the dispute comes from some people, or the prosecution, saying that Evan followed him. But you see a different thing on that video.
Well, what I see is, they step out of the camera so you can't see Adam Michaels and Mr. Vaughn. And then you have another bartender and a gentleman in a red shirt kind of pointing down toward where they're at and kind of making a motion to where signaling for Hawthorne to kind of go down with them. And then so after that, Evan starts to walk toward them. He goes out of camera, and then Ari, who is a bartender, follows Hawthorne. And the four of them end up outside the Anderson apartments. And Mr. Vaughn's trying to get his key fob to work, and he's having problems with that. And so Adam Michaels gets the key fob, opens the door, and you can see him kind of put his arm like, nobody else come behind us. But then there's this period real quick where I think Mr. Vaughn probably said, no, it's cool. Everybody can come in.
So they
And
all
so
go in.
They all go in, all four of them.
And you can see this on a video, on a surveillance from the apartment complex.
Yes.
It doesn't look like from this video that you can see Mr. Hawthorne kind of forcing his way in, or there's no. Did they all walk in together, right?
That's
Is that
correct.
what you're
Yeah.
saying? Okay.
Yeah. Adam Michaels opens the door for Vaughn to go in. Vaughn's the first one in, then Adam, and then Hawthorne, and then Ari.
And they get up to his apartment. Who goes into the apartment?
Well, that's where we lose cameras, the hallway. He lived on the first floor. So they apparently walked down. His is on the left-hand side. And from testimony from Adam Michaels, the testimony is that he told Hawthorne, no, you don't need to go in there. And then he said that Mr. Vaughn said, no, it's cool. Y'all come in and have a couple of beers. And that's when Adam and Ari said, no, we got to get back up to the bar. Hawthorne's in the apartment at this time. The door shuts. And that's what testimony is.
Right. And then eventually Evan is arrested.
Well, what happened, they got him on videotape coming out of the Anderson. There's visible blood on him.
And what time was that? What time was he?
I'm going to say probably about 12:45 or 1:45. It was one or the other.
How long was he actually in? How
Just
long
less than an hour.
Less than an hour. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And he didn't know his way around the apartment. So to be quite honest, we don't know if he got on the elevator, went upstairs, stumbled around, and then came back down and ended up getting out at one of the exits. I think it was actually the exit on the other end of the apartment complex, not the actual door that he went in when he came into the apartment.
Because of that video, they're able to arrest him, and they bring him in. He doesn't have much memory of it because he was wasted. Does he maintain the same story throughout?
Well, if we could back up.
Yeah.
After he leaves the Anderson, he goes to a park and apparently passes out for a couple hours.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then somehow he loses his shoes there. He makes it back to Winthrop University where he's attending school. Apparently, he throws some of his clothing in the wash, and then he goes back to his dorm room and I guess falls asleep for a while, calls his father to come pick him up, and his dad picks him up, takes him to a convenience store where he goes in and buys another 6-pack of beer. And so when he's exiting this convenience store, that's when the arrest was made.
Okay. And so they bring him in. How long do you know there's videotape, I assume, of the interrogation, of the questioning, and how long does it go?
Somewhere in the neighborhood of a little over 3 hours to close to 4 hours.
Let me ask you first. What time was he? What time was he arrested? Just
Off the top of my head, it was in the afternoon.
Okay. Okay.
So the arrest happens. They talk to him. He admits to what?
He admits that being at Tattoo Brews and tries to explain where he had been before he gets to Tattoo Brews. And he walks pretty much through the story just as I've stated. And then he told them that he was in the bathroom and going to the bathroom, and then Mr. Vaughn charged the door. And when he charged the door, Evan Hawthorne was trying to keep him out, and he was unsuccessful apparently. So he hit Mr. Vaughn, I think he said 3 times. They go down on the bathroom floor, and at that point, he uses either his leg or his hand to hold Mr. Vaughn down, and then he strikes him 2 or 3 more times to the point where it knocks him out. He immediately exits the apartment. He doesn't go in, try to wash himself up or any of that. And the door to the bathroom is right next to the entryway door to the apartment.
It's a small place, so it's really close to each other.
Yeah, well, that area is very close. It
Yeah,
was a
that place.
2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, but that area is tight. Yeah.
Yeah, very.
And that story stays consistent.
Yes.
Does he say he's concerned about Vaughn's injuries? That he was concerned at any time about his injuries or that he had killed him?
He was in shock that they said that Mr. Vaughn was dead. And he was apologetic during the interview process and felt bad, really bad, of what happened.
Let's talk about the investigation.
Yeah.
When we spoke last, you said that the family had some concerns about how this investigation was conducted. What are those concerns?
Well, Mr. Vaughn was a retired Rock Hill City police officer. I believe his rank was lieutenant. He was also on the SWAT team at Rock Hill. And so immediately when word got out, there were a lot of Rock Hill police officers that came to the scene. I think the log has like 50 people that were at the crime scene. Whether it's not very clear, was the crime scene at the apartment door and in the apartment, or was the crime scene outside the apartment complex? And that's where the 50 people were. So there's questions about that because the log is not very good. It's really kind of a mess.
So there weren't. How many people went into the apartment?
Well, that's what we have a problem with as far as knowing exactly who went in, when they went in, and how many exited. That's what the log should do, and there should have been one probably set up outside the apartment complex and then one at the door. Now, there was an officer clamp at the door with his body cam on, and you see the EMS workers outside, and then you see a supervisor go into the apartment where Mr. Vaughn's laying, and he checks his vitals and everything and pronounces him dead at that point. Then, if you go by the crime scene log, then I believe 4 York County officers come in because the decision's been made to let York County be the investigative agency and Rock Hill back out because of the potential for a conflict with Mr. Vaughn and the Rock Hill City Department.
And so at some point, a medical examiner has to come in, or a coroner or somebody comes in to do all that work. And who was that, and what were they finding?
So that was Sabrina Gass. She is the coroner of York County. At some point, she came in and was doing what she would normally do, which
Now, is that being recorded?
she had a camera strapped on her, and she did take some photographs. And I don't know if those were via cell phone or the 35 millimeter camera that she had on. But then what happened, there were 4 officers that are on the log from York County that came in, and then a 5th officer, a crime scene person, comes in and then starts to photograph the crime scene.
So there is some body cam footage from officers that are around. What strikes you when you go through all the footage? Is there that maybe even doesn't say that he didn't do it or whatever, but you say like, okay, this was not done really well.
Well, so we watched a lot of video. There was a lot of video on this
Yeah.
case, and my lead investigator, Alex Tyndall, was going through the video, and then we're about maybe 2 weeks out from going to trial, and we've been working the case for close to 4 years at this point. And he catches something on the video that he's watching. Somebody's body cam was picking up. Sabrina Gass was over in the kitchen area walking toward Mr. Vaughn's body, at which point um, she leans over the body and bends over, and you can kind of see maybe she gets something out of his pocket, and she looks back and says, "Do you all need this cell phone?" And they say, "Yes." So she gives them the cell phone. Then you see her bend over on the other side, and she says, "What about this knife?" At that point, that's when the body cam cuts off.
Huh. And is the phone and knife, are they logged? Are they
No, they were not logged. We did not know about those items because they were not in evidence when we reviewed all of the evidence.
do they deny that there was a knife and phone, or do they say, yeah, we messed that up?
Well, what happened was Mr. Hawthorne's attorneys decided to have a hearing. Like I said, this is maybe 10 days, 2 weeks before, down in Spartanburg, to address these issues about the knife and the cell phone. And so that's when they were addressed. And prior to that hearing, I think the solicitor had gone over with Sabrina Gass about the findings that we had. And at that hearing, she was forthcoming and said, yes, those items were collected by me. And I can't remember the exact testimony, but she could not say where she got the knife or if it was open or not open, and that it should have been logged and it should have been turned in, all those items as evidence.
Hmm. Which would it's a pretty big deal when one side is saying it's self-defense. Kind of
And
important thing.
that was a discovery by your group watching these videos.
That's correct.
Okay, so in the pictures, I don't know when the pictures were taken. There is no, you can't see a knife in any of the pictures.
No.
Okay. Um, I
And
wanna talk
we don't
Yeah.
actually see the knife, because the body cam cuts off, but you can hear her say, "What about this knife?" Then it cuts off.
Do we know where this knife is now?
It was, the lead investigator, Mr. Wallace, as soon as he found out about it, reached out to the family of Mr. Vaughn, and I believe one of the daughters had the knife, and I do not believe that they had the cell phone or turned the cell phone back over.
And was the knife admitted in the courtroom? Like,
Yes,
okay.
it was, and, there again, in front of the jury, Sabrina Gass did say that it was improper for it to go back to the family, and it should have been logged into evidence.
I want to get to the
The
finger, the
finger, yeah.
thumb. They claim that Evan bit off Larry Vaughn's thumb. Explain why you have a little trouble accepting that.
Well, um, it's really hard from my little bit of research to find an expert that could actually testify that somebody bit somebody's finger or thumb off. The other thing is just looking at the wound, which the thumb was severed, but it's pretty clean all the way to the back, what I'll call the back where the knuckle is, and then it's jagged. So, I think there'd be more damage done to the thumb than what was done. I mean, there was a lot of damage. It was, taken off of his finger, but I think it would have been, you would have seen more of bite marks and those type things.
Did they
What?
keep the other part of the thumb? And did they test it for like his DNA or whatever?
Off the top of my head, I'm
No.
not sure. I
Okay.
do know that there was a third party's DNA in the crime scene area where his body was, and we don't know whose DNA that was.
What did the medical experts testify about this when
About the
during
thumb?
the hearing?
Well, she said that she had never testified about bite marks, but that's what it could have possibly been. But she couldn't say with a degree of certainty that that's exactly what happened. Also, the door, he could have gotten it caught somehow in the hinge of the door. There was some blood splatter on the outside of the door and going up uh, just the molding of the door.
So it could have been cut off by getting jammed into there. Because Evan maintains, or his team says that uh, Larry was charging him in the bathroom. So that's
Correct.
where the fight, yeah. So that could be him fighting, gets his thing, trying to get the door open, gets his thumb caught in there.
And that would be consistent with his story that it was, self-defense trying to get away from him.
Right. Another thing that happened that was brought up was the crime scene. They took Larry Vaughn's handcuffs.
Correct.
And it's because a tradition is to, I guess, use the guy's handcuffs to arrest the person who they think did it or did it. But tell me why that's problematic.
Well, I mean, um, and Detective Wallace admitted that he probably shouldn't have taken the handcuffs, but explained that it was a memorialism of Mr. Vaughn, and that kind of was what the purpose was behind that. So someone, after he was arrested down at the station and booked, they switched the handcuffs, put Vaughn's handcuffs on, and then took a photograph and sent it through several different sources, and it ended up getting out on Facebook, social media, on Facebook.
Mm.
So that it's problematic because it should have never left the crime scene. That was an active working crime scene.
Mhm.
So, and there again, I mean, Detective Wallace and Sabrina Gass, they did not lie about what had happened, but they had the opportunity to, at these hearings, to state why and what they did. And they also had to do that in front of the jury as well.
When we spoke with you last, you showed us some pictures of Vaughn's hand. Describe, in your opinion, what this picture shows.
This picture shows it's of his right hand, and you can see where there's not blood above the knuckles. Yeah, there is blood above the knuckles, but not across the knuckles, and blood near the wrist area. You can see just a line that's pretty clear that something was covering that area up.
So yeah, when a blood happened, it's almost like a tan line or whatever. You can see this line there.
White area where there's no blood.
Right.
So was anybody questioned during the trial about this?
Yes, their state's witness, the forensic pathologist that testified on cross-examination, did say that there was something in Mr. Vaughn's hand and wrapped all the way around his uh, inside of his palm and on the wrist.
But no one said what it was. But there was something which should have been in the pictures or should have been logged.
That's correct. Absolutely. So that's there again. That's their
We don't
state's.
know what that is.
That was their witness,
and we still don't know what that is
No, we don't.
because there was no record of anything in the crime scene log.
No.
Let's see. What else are we missing from what you discovered? Am I missing anything big here?
Well, when I was out of town when the trial ended, the defense did not put up a defense. We thought that there was enough that came out through the testimony that would give reasonable doubt to murder. And so when I got back from being out of town, it was disturbing to find out, well, I'd found out earlier, but that he was convicted of murder and got a life sentence. So there again, my lead investigator, we were going back through the videos and everything, and we're both in there looking at this EMS person going into the door. And you've got one EMS person holding the door open. Clamp is standing with the body cam going, and you see what looks like to be an object in the palm of Mr. Vaughn's hand. And so we replayed it, stopped it, blew it up and everything, and it appeared that there was something in his hand to us. And like I said, that was a couple weeks after the trial. So at that point, I brought the Hawthorns in and asked them what they saw. And after going through it a few times, they said it looks like and appears there's something in his hand. And that's what we came up with too, as well. So at that point, they asked me if I would get in touch with the solicitor out of Spartanburg that handled the case and request that a SLED agent be at this meeting so that we could bring it to their attention what we had found. And so my lead investigator and I went down to Spartanburg. They were gracious enough to allow us to come in and meet with them. It was a solicitor, an assistant solicitor, and I think 2 investigators from their office, and then the SLED agent that was there. And so we probably spent a couple hours looking at it. Their take was that it was just a shadow, and that's what it was. And at that point, Mr. Hawthorne's attorneys did not know about this. It had not been brought to their attention. So after not hearing back from the solicitor's office, I went and sat down with Jack Swirling and his associate Curtis.
That's
And
the attorneys
explained,
for Evan. Yeah.
yeah, the Hawthorne. And so I explained what we had found and what I had done with that piece of information. And they looked at it, and then that was pretty much the extent of it at that time. At that time, they had asked, I believe, for a hearing to review and go over and try to get a reduction in sentencing, as well as potentially possibly a new trial. So then at some point, Mr. Axelrod's office got involved from Myrtle Beach, and they were going to kind of handle the item in the hand at the hearing that we had for a new trial and resentencing. And at some point, Tristan Schaefer, Mr. Axelrod's associate, had gone and talked to Curtis, as well as they all went back, I believe, and talked to the judge. And it was determined at this hearing that Mr. Shaver would not bring this up, but it ended up being brought up, I think, by the state as well as Curtis for the defense.
I think the next step is to appeal on some of the evidentiary issues. Is that,
As
am
well
I
as,
understanding that right?
yeah, that as well as just the whole trial. So there won't be any new evidence at when they're reviewing everything at appellate court. But if that doesn't happen, then they're are other avenues after that, but this process will take some time, possibly years.
Pete, thank you for spending time with us. Appreciate it.
All right.
We'll be in touch.
Thanks again.
Again, as we say on this podcast all the time, we let people speak. We give different sides to different cases and different arguments. It's up to you guys to decide. You may hear what the PI was saying and saying not relevant to the verdict. You may say it was relevant, but the defense didn't do a good job. You may say it's a bunch of gobbledygook. We're not telling you what to think, but we want to hear what you think on the Impact of Influence Facebook page. Now, I should point out, we reached out to the solicitor's office. We hope to have them on an upcoming episode to talk about the prosecution side and what they presented at trial and why they presented what they did. Again, we're grateful. Support our sponsors, and we'll talk soon, friends.